Good afternoon. Thank you for your patience and sorry for the delay. I'd like to call the February 10th, 2026 City Council regular meeting and work study session to order. City Clerk Ben Lane, may we please have a roll call?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Lisa Borowski,
Present.
Vice Mayor Adam Quasman, Council Members Jan Duboskus, Barry Graham, Kathy Littlefield, Marianne McAllen,
Present.
and Solange Whitehead.
Here.
City Manager Greg Caton.
Here.
Interim City Attorney Luis Centella.
Here.
City Treasurer Sonia Andrews.
Here.
Acting City Auditor Lake Clough.
Here.
And the clerk is present. Thank you, Mayor.
And let the record reflect, Councilwoman Littlefield has just sat down. This evening, we have police officers, Scottsdale police officers, Eric Bowles, officers Kyle Scholak and Ray Wilburn, as well as Scottsdale firefighters Hunter Ferguson and Michael Farrell. If anyone requires their assistance for any reason at all, please let a member of our staff know. And for the Pledge of Allegiance, I would like to ask Councilwoman Whitehead to lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And Councilwoman Jan Duboskus will assist us with the invocation tonight.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It is my pleasure to introduce Ryan Goebel, the campus pastor for Scottsdale Bible at the Shea campus. Ryan is a leader in all aspects, and I am so excited to hear your invocation tonight and your blessings for the city of Scottsdale. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you for having me. I invite you to pray with me if you would like. Almighty God, we come before you this evening, servants of one another, here to live in harmony, here to live for the betterment of our city and of one another. Lord, we are neighbors. Remind us of that fact that we are to love one another. Keep us safe in honoring to one another's opinions and to help to the best of our ability the least, the lost, and the lonely in our midst. Direct us, give us courage and honor. It's in the name of Jesus Christ that we pray. Amen.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Pastor Goebel. Thank you for being here. For the mayor's report this evening, I'd like to begin by celebrating the amazing events that we have all participated in and experienced over, or at least many of us, over the past week and a half. It's been quite the showcase for Scottsdale as we were featured on, I guess it was a week-long commercial with the Waste Management Open. And then prior to that, of course, was the Barrett-Jackson, which I think was a 10-week full-time advertising Scottsdale in all its beauty. And what successful results. The 2026 Scottsdale auction was one for the record books. Again this year, it seems like we say that every year, so that's very cool. Generated at least $195 million in total auction sales, featuring 1,911 collectible vehicles and more than 6,500 registered bidders who traveled from around the world to be part of our iconic Barrett-Jackson car auction, which of course is a one-of-a-kind Scottsdale event, born and raised here. So thank you to the Barrett-Jackson family for all they bring to Scottsdale. And of course, equally fantastic was the charitable impact that the auction had, raising $5.85 million for charity. Very, very impressive work. And it was such a gorgeous experience out there this year. And of course, we have the People's Open at the TPC, which is led by the Thunderbirds. And not only is it a world-class golf event that attracts visitors from all over the world, it's one of the most influential economic drivers our city has. In fact, our region has. It supports local jobs, boosts our hospitality sector, and brings substantial benefits to large and small businesses. This year, attendance was estimated to be between 500 and 600,000 fans during the week. making it one of the largest annual events in our state. Thanks to the outstanding work, and really a great big thank you and congratulations to all of our public safety officers. There was so many examples of how our Scottsdale PD and fire department really work together to make events like this amazing and is events. So for all of the public safety that was out there, and of course our executives that arranged for all of this, thank you very much for a safe, well-managed, and memorable experience. And so I'd like to start with a round of applause for our public safety and all the events. And we couldn't do it without you, so thank you for all that. And looking forward, this week kicks off the Scottsdale Arabian Horse Show. And that, I think that starts on Friday with the Global Champions Arabian Tour. And for those of you who have not heard me talk about this, it's another example of how iconic our Westworld equestrian and event venue is. Horses come from around the world. They literally fly, 100 horses or so over from other countries. So it's something to see, and I would encourage you all to go check it out, and tickets are widely available. To conclude this evening's report, I'm going to talk about a proclamation. I'm proud to share that February has been designated as Career and Technical Education Month. Career and technical education gives young people the chance to build the academic knowledge, technical skills, and real-world experience with meaningful learning and hands-on application. Students engage more deeply in their education and often achieve at a higher level because they see a direct connection between what they're learning and the future they're building while they're learning about it. And so this evening, I am pleased to present this proclamation recognizing our CTE students, their instructors, and the programs that they employ and participate in, which help Scottsdale's future and our workforce. So I'll walk down and present this proclamation to the members that are here from CTE. Thank you very much for being here. And I would invite everybody here to walk down as well. Well done, and keep up the good work. We appreciate you being here. All right, for presentations tonight, we have the Employee Recognition Program, where the City Council recognizes employees with 20 or more years of service as of this month. So with that, I'll call on Holly Peralta, Communications and Public Affairs Interim Senior Director, to talk to us about that.
Mayor and City Council, good evening. Tonight, we are proud to recognize our employees who have reached 20 or more years of service with the City of Scottsdale this February. Each of these team members represent decades of dedication to our community and to one another. Their work helps keep our city safe, responsive, and welcoming, and their experience strengthens the services residents rely on every day. On behalf of the Mayor, City Council, and our entire organization, thank you for your commitment to public service and for helping make Scottsdale a better place to live, work, and visit. I would like to name the employees who are here with us this evening and invite them up for a photo. We have Aaron Bolin, Michael Conway, Leah Peller, Stephanie Tippett, and Deanna Zupin. And if you'd like to come forward, we'll take a picture. Congratulations.
Anyone else want to come down and take a picture while we're all? I'm so excited all of those employees were here because that's a huge landmark, and a lot of times we don't have those employees here, so thank you for being here. All right, moving right along to possible executive session announcement, which we have at every meeting. During tonight's meeting, the council may make a motion, if appropriate, to recess into executive session in order to obtain legal advice on any applicable item on the agenda. If authorized by the council, the executive session would be held immediately and would not be open to the general public or to the participants here. And in that event, we would return to the regular meeting after the executive session concludes. So moving on to meeting minute approvals. If there are no revisions or questions or concerns, I will entertain a motion to approve special meeting minutes of November 17, 2025, executive session meeting minutes of November 17, 2025, joint work study session minutes between the City Council and the Budget Review Commission of November 17, 2025, and finally, regular meeting and work study session minutes of November 17, 2025.
So moved, Mayor.
We got a second over here. All those, please register your vote. All right, and before we move on to the consent agenda, I understand Councilwoman DeBascus would like to make a motion on a regular agenda item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to continue the work study item related to the sound ordinance.
Second.
Unless anyone has any questions, we can take a vote on this motion.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the consent agenda item. Items 1 through 9. Do any members of the council have any questions on the regular consent agenda items or requests to move off the consent agenda to the regular agenda? Councilwoman DeBascus.
Items number 3 and 5, I'd like to have a little bit more robust discussion about the Old Town Tavern as a whole.
All right. Councilman Graham.
Frank and Lupe's was a historic, iconic restaurant in Old Town, and I see it on the consent agenda tonight to move to Gainey Village, if that's correct. So I just want to call that out, and I'm excited there's going to be a revival of Frank and Lupe's. Thank you.
Adding to that, I didn't realize you were a fan. Yeah, me too. So that's exciting news. Excellent. Thanks for pointing that out. All right, with the exception of item number 3, which has been pulled off the consent agenda, I will entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items 3 and 5. Okay, 3 and 5. I'll entertain a motion, therefore, for items number 1 and 2, and 4, and 6 through 9, if I'm doing my math right there. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second. Second.
All right. Please indicate your vote on those consent agenda items. Thank you. Let's go to public comment. Just footnote, there were no public comments on the consent agenda, and so we are moving right along to, do we want to take item number 3 and 5 now? Might as well. So let's move on to item number 3 and talk about who's presenting on this item.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm Casey Steinke, Senior Planner with Scottsdale Planning and Development Services, here to present cases 5 and 6 UP 2025, 1 IP 2025, and I think 97 LL 2025, which is item number 3. You can see the site location here, Old Town Tavern, right in the middle of downtown. And closer up, you can see it at the intersection of Main and Brown, right where Main Street intersects with the Civic Center Mall, a couple hundred feet west of where we are right now. And the zoning on this site is C2 commercial with the downtown overlay. So up until very recently, for the past several decades, Old Town Tavern has operated out of the suite highlighted in yellow here. That lease is up, and they are looking to move into the building, a little larger space, directly to the east of where they were. Now, although it's the same owner and an ostensibly similar operation, the way conditional use permits work are they don't go with businesses, they stay with the land that that gets them. And so the new location highlighted in blue would need to get conditional use permits both for a bar and for live entertainment in order for the operation to exist at this new establishment, irrespective of the fact that it's seemingly a similar operation that used to exist right next door. Therefore, the owner requests that council adopt 3 resolutions associated with these 2 CUPs and the in lieu parking credits, which we'll discuss at this location. Here's a look at the floor plan. The building itself historically was multiple suites. The owner is currently operating a restaurant out of the area on the left half, highlighted in red, although the end game here is to combine both of these, operate it as a bar with a Series 6 liquor license. And the entirety of the space in here would be about 4,300 square feet with about an 800 square foot patio. Same floor plan highlighted the stages as they're proposed now. The stages, it's maybe not that important where they are now. It could change in the future. The most important part is probably the fact that they are stipulated to have no exterior speakers and not propped open doors and windows to try and help mitigate any of the potential impacts from the live entertainment. There's also no residentially zoned uses in the vicinity. So here's a look at some of the project and site data. I mentioned the relatively modest size of the building. Despite that, because it is a bar, and specifically a bar with live entertainment, that is one of the most intensive parking requirements in the zoning ordinance, and therefore this 4,300 square feet would require 58 parking spaces. Obviously, common sense would suggest we're not feasibly going to cram 58 parking spaces onto a 6,000 square foot lot, and so the zoning ordinance affords a number of tools to help business owners achieve their parking demand. In this case, there's a number of credits at play: bike credits, in lieu credits, which we'll discuss, and then 15 historical credits, which is a bit interesting, actually. The 15 credits were from when this building was originally constructed in the 1970s, and the owner at the time contributed money to a pool of funds to actually help construct one of the garages we have now, in what turns out to kind of be a precursor to the in lieu program, which was later developed in 1985. So they are requesting 41 in lieu spaces. Now, the in lieu program exists partially to help spur reinvestment and redevelopment with evolving uses in situations where you otherwise simply wouldn't be able to meet the current ordinance demand, especially if it's been decades since it's been last developed. And so the in lieu program explicitly helps them redevelop and reinvest into the property, understanding that areas evolve. The other part of it is the in lieu program in the ordinance specifically references a goal of reducing on-site parking in downtown and instead focusing on pedestrian-oriented activities and activating the street. And obviously it'd be a bit difficult to do that if you have parking lots everywhere. There's also a potential conversation which did briefly come up at Planning Commission, which is the idea that, zoning ordinances and any ordinances, they take time to evolve. They don't always evolve with the functional world. And in the modern world, people take lifts, they take Ubers to bars, they ride share, whatever it might be. And so there's a pragmatic conversation that could be had about the combination of that in tandem with the idea that just to the north of this, the parcel abutting this, there is a surface parking lot, there are several garages in the area, and there is on-street parking in the vicinity. So a conversation could be had about the practicality of parking versus the strict requirements of the ordinance, and of course that's what you all would get to decide. The city did also do our standard outreach to all property owners in the area. Up until the day of Planning Commission, there were no public comments, though the day of Planning Commission, we did receive 2 written comments. The owner also held an open house. And at the end of the day, last month, Planning Commission did recommend approval unanimously on this topic. So that concludes the staff presentation. We do have Paul Mitchell as representative for Old Town Tavern for questions as well.
All right, are there any questions? Our screen is, there we go. Councilwoman DeBoscus.
From the materials, it looked like this request for 41 in lieu was a departure from the number of in lieu parking spaces that we have recommended or approved in the past. Can you discuss the difference and why 41?
Mayor Borowski, Councilwoman DeBoscus, I don't know that we've ever made as a staff a claim to what's a reasonable or what's a normal amount of in lieu. It is a departure from what we typically see. I will say that we have had in the last decade, I think the closest was 21, although Kelly's at Southbridge several years before that did have 27 evening use credits. I don't have the information to say this is some kind of record or anything like that, but it probably is a departure. I don't know that we have a particular stand on whether or not it's reasonable or not.
And what was their prior location? What was the size and the parking requirement that they had before? You mentioned this is a little bit bigger.
Councilwoman DeBoscus, I couldn't find actually a floor plan, and maybe the applicant can speak to this on the exact size. They were grandfathered into parking requirements from decades ago, and so they were able to operate. If they were to start operating a new bar at that location today and they were not grandfathered, they would probably require, I think, maybe a fifth or a quarter of this just based on the size, but the applicant may be able to better speak to the size differential.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman McKellen.
Thank you, Mayor. Casey, thank you for your presentation. My question is, how many current spaces are behind Pepperwood, the building that is next door, that open flat lot?
Councilwoman McAllen, I'm trying to load a picture here of the parking numbers in the surface parking. I'm trying to see, I think it's 120, am I seeing that right? 123, is that the correct spot? Maybe not.
Okay, so then my next question is, currently, Old Town Tavern is already in this space. It's just expanding its space, correct?
They are moving. So this is the new location. Sorry, let me load this one.
I know they're moving next door, but it's
Oh.
already operating. Where Old Town Tavern is moving to is already operating as a live music restaurant venue currently, correct?
Councilman McCallum, that is correct, for at least part of it. I think the eastern suite is being worked on or is not operational.
So it's a new business, but doing the same exact thing in the same building, basically.
Well, functionally speaking, it might look that way. Technically, they would have a Series 6 liquor license, which affords them a little more flexibility with their operation, but it might look and act similar.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilman Graham.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Casey. This application just kind of, I spent a lot of time studying this application, and what is, has staff analyzed the cumulative effect of bar density in this area? I mean, this is, Old Town has the highest concentration of liquor licenses in Maricopa County, is that correct?
Mayor Borowski, Councilman Graham, I'm not particularly personally aware of whether or not we're the highest density. I also don't know that we've explicitly, in my time here, I'm speaking for planning mostly, done any sort of research on the density of bars. I'm not sure that's been brought up before in a formal council item.
So staff hasn't analyzed the cumulative effect of recent bar approvals and taken that into consideration as far as their impacts on noise levels or public intoxication or resident complaints in the area?
I would say that we have not, to my recollection, I don't believe we've analyzed that specific question, no. So as far as the in lieu fees collected to date, do you know of any spots in the area that have been built with in lieu parking payments that have been paid by people that have purchased them? Councilman Graham, off the top of my head, I don't have a list of who uses in lieu in this exact area. I know north of here, Sanchez, I know Boondocks, I know those guys have in lieu. I'm not sure about a lot of these, like Rusty Spur and Grapevine and those, they might have been grandfathered out of that, so I don't have that information on hand.
I guess what I'm kind of seeing here is that, you mentioned about the evolving needs of what is going on in this area, but we have these standards for a reason. And so when you talk about evolving needs and what, may be dynamically happening down there, but we have standards and we have codes to protect the stakeholders and what's going on down there. I think Old Town development must be balanced to prioritize our residents' quality of life over some of this unchecked expansion. And I think the proposal to expand an existing bar to inflate the bar density in an already saturated area It just necessarily relies on what I see as a flawed in lieu parking program to paper over real infrastructure shortcomings. So I see this as the in lieu parking program as a phantom solution. 41 spots kind of sticks out to me. I mean, we got a memo today from the city manager, and that's, I think, the largest. I don't know how familiar you are with the in lieu program, but I think that's by far, this would be the largest entitlement under that program so far. I kind of see the city manager reaching for the microphone, but I don't know if that, no, he's not reaching for the microphone. Absolutely not. So I just wonder, I'm just wondering about the feasibility of, I mean, the city is selling paper parking credits, a lot of them, parking that does not exist, to an area that's underparked. And we have no measurable plan to add parking with those in lieu dollars to this particular area. So those are some thoughts right now, and maybe you want to hear some more of what my colleagues have to say. I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think about maybe continuing this for another time, and we can kind of talk about it some more? So maybe I might make a motion here. There'll be obviously opportunity for more of my colleagues to say more, but I probably will make a motion to continue.
Councilman Graham, city attorney would like to chime in.
Oh, thank you, Mayor.
Mayor and members of the council, keep in mind there are two items here. There's a liquor license item number 3, and then there's the in lieu item. And on item 3, if the council doesn't make a recommendation on that will be the effect of having no recommendation, and that will proceed forward anyway. So just keep in mind there's two different items.
You're talking about number 3. If we move to continue it, that will be decided?
Effectively, yes, because there's a certain time frame you're supposed to provide a recommendation.
Didn't know that. Okay, that's good. That's good to know. I mean, everything I'm seeing right now, I can't support it as it is. I can't support the idea that I'm selling, as a city, I'm selling, over 40 virtual paper parking spaces to an area that that's already underparked. So, city attorney, is that requirement, is that airtight, or is that like we move it to the next meeting and we still have time?
We'd have to ask Mr. Curtis, because I believe the statute says we have to provide a recommendation within 60 days, so I don't know how much time we have left.
Mayor, members of the council, Tim Curtis, also with the Planning Department. Correct, the state provides us the application, the city, the application for the local governing body to make a recommendation within 60 days. The 60-day time frame is very short, especially when you're processing associated conditional use permits, like we are the bar use permit for the bar liquor license. The 60 days, to answer the question, is due on Valentine's Day this weekend. So we are out of time in terms of providing a recommendation to the state regarding the Series 6 bar liquor license. I think, and the city attorney can correct me if I'm wrong, but the way that the state liquor department operates is they will move forward with that application with or without the local governing body, the city council's recommendation.
How closely do they scrutinize what the local recommendation is? That may be a speculative question.
Mayor and Councilman Graham, the That's difficult to say. That board changes from time to time.
Right.
The city attorney might have a little bit more experience with how they operate at that level.
I mean, it's not the fault of my colleagues and me for that it's, so close to the deadline. And this, we're dealing with this as soon as it came to us. And so I think it's kind of one of those, I think we can't let the pressure of a deadline like that alter what we're going to do for Scottsdale residents. So I think with that, I will just move to continue this, and maybe they can get an extension or some other satisfactory. You can get an extension or some other satisfactory alternative solution can be presented, but move to extend item number 3, Old Town Liquor License 97 LL 2025, and item number 5, Resolution 13592, 13593, 13600. Thank you.
I didn't hear a second, so let's continue with the debate, with the discussion.
Second.
Okay, so I'm not following the basis for the extension because I don't know what we would learn more so than we have available tonight. For example, in lieu parking credits 41, is the business owner going to be able to go get 41 actual parking spaces or the requisite number of spaces? Do you know the answer to that question, just so we know for the purposes of this particular motion?
Mayor Borowski, there's no physical spaces directly tied to this. It goes into a pool of money to help us build and maintain public parking spaces. As long as he can pay the monthly fee, it goes into.
No, I'm well aware of that, what you just described, but I think the objection is the in lieu, the fact that they are in lieu, at least that's what I'm hearing, and I echo those concerns. So my question was, if we continue this tonight to a different date, which is after the expiration of their deadline, can they find 41 actual parking spaces adjacent or close to their compliant with the requirements?
Mayor Borowski, in our conversation with them, we've tried other outlets, remote parking, and things like that. Unless they have new information, it seems unlikely that there's another mechanism.
So I'm not going to support the motion to continue it because I don't know what difference that would make, but nonetheless, I'll still listen to the conversation here about that. Maybe it'll flesh out some additional basis for that. But I do have a question for you, just for the public's sake. I don't think we've talked about in lieu parking since I've been here on the dais this time around. And this is a very kind of, mysterious conversation, and I think it's important for the people watching this or that watch this at some point later, that they understand these are, as Councilman Graham pointed out, they're kind of illusory parking spaces that actually don't exist. And so I'll just use an example or just, an example of that. If I go to find an in lieu parking space, where do I park?
Mayor Borowski, you would find public parking.
So, which begs the question, or the issue, the point I was trying to get at. We've had a lot of conversation, on the other hand, about actual parking spaces and building a new garage, right? And I think if there's a problem, which I agree with Councilman Graham on a couple of the points he made, and I disagree with a couple of the points he made, but notwithstanding that, we arrive at the same result. The in lieu parking program, and maybe this is something we should look at very closely soon, because I think it doesn't serve the purposes that we need served right now. Meaning, if there's a shortage of parking, which we don't know that, I'd like to see today's updated study on that. Hopefully we'll get one of those in the near future. Why are we allowing imaginary parking spaces to be utilized or purchased, which that money, I'm assuming, goes into the general fund, is that right?
Mayor Borowski, it has a specific fund.
A specific fund that goes to what? Building parking garages, which we're out of land to build parking garages. So we're coming full circle, right? It kind of doesn't make sense at this point for me, unfortunately. And just a little bit of a correction, this has been an operating business about 10 feet from where it's moving into. So it's not a new business, but nonetheless, it's a very busy business. So to the extent it's added to any parking deficit over the past decade or 2 decades, it certainly would increase now because there's more buildup around it. So I believe it should be subject to the rules of today, but I don't like the fact that the in lieu is being used here. So that's what I'm going to leave it at. Councilwoman Whitehead, thank you.
Thanks, Casey, and thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I agree with a lot of what's been said. I mean, in my time, 5 parking spaces in lieu was scrutinized pretty good. But I just want to clarify a couple of things. So the original, so we're going from the 12 to the 6, so it's operating as a restaurant today, correct?
Correct.
And it has no live music today?
It is not entitled to have live music, so unless they're operating, they shouldn't be having live entertainment right now.
Okay, so it's really the same business, but there are some significant changes in that it's going to be a bar versus a restaurant, and it's going to have live music. And I do want that clarified. And I actually watched the Planning Commission meeting, so I think the Pepperwood lot was brought up as public parking, but I think we have a contract on that for valet. Do you know if we do? So I think quite a few of those spots are reserved for valet during certain times of the day and night.
Councilwoman Whitehead, I'm aware that it exists. I'm not familiar with the specifics of that. I mean, I know it is public parking. I don't know the details of the valet agreement.
No, I don't, that's okay, Casey. But yeah, a lot of it is valet, I believe, or a significant portion. I guess I'm just in agreement with most of my colleagues here. This is sort of a difficult one. I don't see any benefit to a delay, a continuance either. So that's kind of where I stand. Thanks.
Councilwoman Littlefield.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with your comments, and I think that, I've been up here a lot. I've seen a lot of businesses come up, primarily in the downtown area, asking for in lieu parking, because it is tight. Every space is basically snapped up as soon as they can snap it. But 41 spaces, you can't make that up in lieu parking, trying to find alternate spaces in the downtown area. I don't think there are that many available. If you can't get the parking spaces that you have the right to have, and I can't accept that. That's just going to cause more and more problems in our downtown area with parking. I think it's a problem that needs to be figured out and solved and then come back to us. And maybe we can say yes then, but I can't approve this. This will just create more and more traffic problems, parking problems, space problems, and I can't accept that at this level. It's just too much. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Quasman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I see Luis has left his desk, and that's okay. I was just wondering why, if ARS 9835, just Googling it, looking at that, I see on section I, this is just, I tend to agree with Councilmember Littlefield and the mayor on this issue, but just looking at it in terms of academics, it says in section I, by mutual or written electronic agreement, a municipality and an applicant for a license may extend the substantive review time frame for the overall time frame. This is with regard to a liquor license. An extension of the substantive review time frame and the overall time frame may not exceed 50% of the overall time frame. So, and I'm getting a head shake from an attorney, which is always a better attorney than I am, so it's always a bad situation. So I'll ask the question to the city attorney.
So Mayor, members of the council, and I'm sure Councilman Quasman's an excellent attorney, so But he's citing something from the Regulatory Bill of Rights, and there's a specific section 4-201 that's applicable to liquor licenses, and it talks about a 60-day time frame. Now, my understanding from speaking to our liquor detective just now is they do have a temporary license that allows them to operate to May. It's possible that perhaps we could come to some sort of voluntary agreement with them between now and the 14th to see if they would allow an extension to resolve this particular issue, and we could file something with the liquor department to give us more time. I'll go offline right now and I'll discuss with their attorney and see if we can reach that agreement.
Thank you. Councilman Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. I was able to kind of just talking to myself right now.
Are you done?
There's no one there. I have questions for staff.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking to yourself.
Oh,
Sorry.
I can.
That's what I heard. I don't know.
I said I'm kind of talking to myself here.
And there was an awkward silence.
Casey was doing the people's business and, working with the applicant. Okay, so pulling up the memo for, this is an application about, for starters, it's a restaurant right now, or it has been, and they want to convert it to a bar. Is that right?
Councilman Graham, that's correct.
And what's the square footage of the prior footprint, and what's the whole footprint square footage percentage-wise? Is that double or triple the space?
Are you talking about the previous establishment?
Yeah, the yellow to the blue on that.
Yeah. What's the exact square footage?
And while they're talking, Mayor and members of the council, the applicant's attorney would like to address the council and see if they can answer some of the questions, if possible.
Councilman Graham, the applicant informs me that the previous location was about 1,000 square feet interior, and then I think 1,500 square feet of patio.
The previous one.
Previous.
So 1,500 square patio where those umbrellas are, and then 1,000 square feet, which is, that's a small restaurant. And then what is the new square footage? So it's going to be patio, so a smaller patio, but a 400% increase in the interior.
Correct.
And the category is going to go from a restaurant to a bar. And so you're saying, Casey, that you can go back to the other slide if you don't mind. Stay here. The bar designation just drives a lot of parking demands. And I appreciate what you're doing for the applicant to explain to us that the dynamics and the evolution of what's going on, but we do have these standards in place. There is a parking problem in the downtown. The Pepperwood parking lot to the north was not funded out of general funds. That was funded out of a special taxation district. So they can't park there from the standpoint of the people that paid for that specific purpose. That was funded by a specific group of people for a specific purpose. So you come to us, and not you, but the applicant. 58 parking spots are needed. 58 parking spots. The most we've ever sold of in lieu parking spots was to Marley's Grill, 41 spots. Was that Marley's or was that something like there? I think it was Marley's. And that was actually in the entertainment district, and that was a mistake. 58 parking spots. 2 of the parking spots are going to be credited with bike racks. That's kind of a joke. I wish we could do something about that in the code. 15, the prior tenant or owner of the blue, of the existing plat, 15, are you saying, what do you mean by 15 spots were credited that are going to transfer to the new tenant? Did they purchase this, or are they just a tenant?
Councilman Graham, Old Town Tavern is the tenant. It's still owned by Saba.
So how does that 15 credit carryover work? 15 credit carryover spots that you talked about, how does that work?
Well, we had a conversation with the legal team, and they submitted a document that we were not aware of that showed that they participated in this unique program, and so we thought it was reasonable to give them credit for those after legal looked at the document.
So you're saying that staff had discretion on that?
The legal team.
Okay, so you're saying it could have, and so the decision was made, and they had 15 credit carryover, and was that from the in lieu program or from a predecessor program?
Councilman Graham, I don't know that it was officially an ongoing program, but a predecessor of sorts. And maybe a one-time deal.
I'm sorry, I just don't know what that means, 15 spot carryover. I don't know what that means. Can you explain that to us, because you brought it up?
We are credited, we are allowing them the 15 credits they paid for in perpetuity from 1975.
Where are the spots? We don't understand what that means. I don't understand what that means.
So just like the in lieu program, they paid money and we helped construct a parking garage nearby.
So can you point to us where the construction, the garage was built nearby?
Yeah, it was the Civic Center garage,
Okay.
which is 685 on here, I think.
And then we're going to sell them 41 in lieu parking spots. Pull up my notes here. Which would match, I guess, the record for in lieu parking spots. Let me ask you this: in your opinion, is there a parking problem in this area of the Old Town?
Yeah, Councilman Graham, that's a pretty subjective question. It's broader than just planning's perspective, and it's.
Well, let me ask it this way. We're selling paper parking credits that don't exist. If there was plenty of parking, couldn't we just identify parking spots and say, those over there, we'll sell you those. You can get credit for those. But there's no parking spots to do that. Is that right?
Councilman Graham, I think the idea is we get the money first and then later we can construct the parking.
The in lieu parking program, $800,000 has been paid into it since the program began. The city has spent about $250,000 out of that. I don't know how many parking spots we've even gotten from that. Oh, there it is right there. Is this the in lieu parking data? Okay, very good. It's got a current balance of $685,000. I mean, this, I think what we're going to charge this tenant would amount to about $80,000 per year of in lieu, $4,000 a month or per spot, or the exact math comes out to $80,000. But we know that parking spots cost over $100,000 to find the land and to buy it, to acquire it, $100,000 per spot. If we can't sell them parking, does that not suggest we have a parking problem in this area?
Councilman Graham, I'll leave that assessment up to you.
Okay. Like the mayor said and many of my colleagues said, we're selling them a record number of in lieu spots, including bike racks. We're giving credits for those. And there's nowhere to park. A new parking garage is going in 450 feet away from this, a voter-approved parking garage. That's not I mean, in the packet it says that they can use that parking garage as an option. It's not really how it works. That was approved by voters. The city sells bonds, and the voters said, raise my property tax to sell those bonds and pay them off, because that's for the existing shortage down in the downtown area. So I think there's just a lot of questions about this application, and so there is a motion on the table and a second, which I appreciate my colleagues for, and I'll leave my questions there for now. Thank you. Thank you, Casey.
Thank you, Councilwoman McAllen.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to request to have the person who's requesting this permit to talk. I would love to hear from them.
Yes, I was going to call the applicant up
Thank you.
when our discussion was over. So thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, folks. My name is Cameron Morgan. I represent Paul Mitchell, who owns...
Microphone.
I represent Paul Mitchell, who owns the Old Town Tavern. Mr. Mitchell's in the background over there. Folks, I heard a lot about parking, but I don't know if you understand the history of the Old Town Tavern. Old Town Tavern has been there for 40 years, either in the current, under the current name or in the predecessor names. It has been playing music for 40 years. It has been using the parking lots for 40 years. Now, the building that it was previously in has become dilapidated, and so we made plans to start moving next door to the Saber Brothers building. Towards that end, Mr. Mitchell got one half of the building, as you saw on the prior slides, and he started the backdoor restaurant. That was a Class 12 license. Now, when his lease came up for the Old Town Tavern last year, he proceeded to try and move everything up to the Saber Brothers building. We thought that, first of all, there was no parking required for Old Town Tavern, no parking required for backdoor restaurant, and we thought that, well, there's going to be some parking required when we merged the two, but it wouldn't be that significant. We in no way believed that it would require 58 spaces. However, the way that the statute reads, it ended up being 58 spaces. Now, Councilman Graham asked about how we got 15 spaces. The Saber Brothers built that building in 1975 and entered into an agreement with the city that is reduced to writing and is recorded. And they got 15 spaces in perpetuity in the area so long as the city had parking. So that's where we get 15 spaces from. It's recorded and it's binding. It runs with the building. At the time that building was built, it was believed that that's all of the parking that would ever be needed for the Saber Brothers building. Now, obviously, statutes change, codes change, and now we have the in-lieu parking program, which is code, and we have the requirements for parking, which is what we're dealing with here. Now, a couple things. We do not believe that moving Old Town Tavern 30 feet needs 58 spots. That's just ridiculous. But that's where we're at. And we're willing to go along with the city and spend, as Councilman Graham indicated, 80 grand. 80 grand a year to make this move. Now, the actual number of spaces we need is no different than it was before. We didn't need spaces for Old Town. We didn't need spaces for backdoor. All we've done is added on 2,000 square feet. And that's what we're really talking about here. Now, the other thing is we're not going to really change our numbers in terms of patrons. Old Town Tavern is a local bar for Scottsdale residents. In season and in spring training, we have a lot of people come in. But that's only a couple, 3 months. And other than that, we don't really need 58 spaces. Now, the last thing you need to know is you're talking about we have a parking problem. We do not have a parking problem at Pepperwood. It's never completely used, except for lately, because somebody gave Epic Parking, Epic Valet now has a contract to use city property for private purposes. I don't know who gave them that, but that's what the parking problem is in that particular lot now. The other issue is what will happen to my client's business in the event you don't give him his permits and you don't let him move his business. This 40-year-old business will fail, and will fail pretty quickly. We need to get up and running for baseball season, and if we don't, at the rent we're paying, we're going to be out of business. So we have employees, we have musicians, we have distributors, everybody, there's a whole bunch of people that are relying on your decision to let Old Town Tavern move 30 feet. Now, we don't think that Old Town Tavern is going to cause any significant burden to parking in the area, and there is parking. You mentioned the garage at 2nd Avenue. Have you ever looked in the bottom of the garage? It's never used. You have 100 spaces down there that are not used. If you looked at the parking at Pepperwood, there's 125 spaces, 40 of them have been leased out to private. Why? So if it's never filled except for Parada, what do we need to be leasing it for? Now, that 125 spaces at Pepperwood has always been sufficient, not only for our business, but for every other business in the Scottsdale Mall. That's who uses it. It's never full, and I would request that you approve the applications. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have some questions, but I think Councilwoman, okay. So I think it was Councilman Graham that talked about the square footage. So it's really not, first of all, you said the business has been there for 20 years, 40 years in business, right? It's under different names, right?
Mr. Mitchell, 16 years.
Okay.
Prior to that?
40 years. Okay, well, a lot has changed. There's been a lot of build out in the area. Unfortunately, he lost his lease at that building. If he were any applicant coming before us and asking for, you don't have the square footage, 5,500 square foot restaurant bar, it's actually just a bar, right? Series 12. We would be applying this, we would be having the same discussion. And these same concerns would exist. Now, while I agree with a lot of what you just said with respect to the parking, does not appear to be a parking issue except for at the highest tide times. So I agree with everything you just said. However, these rules do apply to everyone coming before the city to open their business. And unfortunately, this is seen as an opening of a business. And Councilwoman McCallum, I'm sure you've been at the location, as have we all. This business hasn't been there in this form for a long time. That's inaccurate. The back door opened, I think, a year ago. It's been a much more smaller, intimate restaurant. Jumping to the Series 12 for a 5,500 square foot space is a whole different machine.
Exactly.
So while I agree with you in theory about the parking situation, there is a strong perception on this council, majority, speaking of the majority, that there's a lack of parking. And we've taken steps, which I've been completely opposed to build a parking garage because of this perception, right? And maybe there is a lack of parking, maybe there isn't. We need to get an updated study. Having said all that, it's unfortunate, but these rules apply to this application. So, I stand with my prior comments. I don't know what a delay is going to do. I don't see any scenario where you're going to go find 41 actual spaces. Although you could be buying them from another business owner. And I'm going to leave it at that. So.
Mayor, may I respond?
Absolutely, but do you want to hold your response or you want to do it now?
Just real short.
Okay.
Thank you. A couple of things. We agree with you. We want to follow the rules. The rules are in lieu parking. That is the code. That's why we came up with the 41 spaces. It hurts us to pay the city $80,000 a year, but we're willing to do it. If it'll help you build parking places, great. Bottom line is, we need to follow the law to pay you the money for the in lieu parking and open our business.
I'm really glad you just said that, because I heard something earlier that sounded like, well, just so long as we pay the money for in lieu, then we get our application approved. I don't think that's true. I think it's discretionary. And if we're not discretionary on the in lieu side of it, I don't think we'd be having this comprehensive conversation, because you would have checked all the boxes. And that's why we're here discussing your approval. So can city attorney or city manager, do you want to speak to that issue? Because I think that's worthy of explanation.
Madam Mayor, are you speaking to discretion? Is that the question? The way I would describe in lieu fee is a relief valve. In lieu parking is quite common in old towns or downtowns because you take a snapshot of the uses at any given time, and therefore your old towns or downtowns are going to evolve. And therefore, it's quite challenging to come up with new spaces, and you want to have density in your old town, generally speaking. And so there's I call it a relief valve or an option for in lieu that usually contributes to the municipality to add additional parking. And so it is discretionary in the sense that it would come before you for consideration, and it is an option. There are other options, and this is the option for your consideration.
Yeah, that's the question I was getting at. It's not absolutely, you haven't complied with, a requirement and therefore the box is checked. It's discretionary, and that's why we're discussing it and voting on it. And to the city manager's point that you just ended with, what are the other options if it's not 41 in lieu spaces?
I think you have to go back to the 58 and what drives the 58. So what drives the 58 spaces is the use. There was a use before, and as my colleague presented, this is one of the higher utilizations of parking per our code, and therefore 58 is arrived at that they have to produce. And therefore, the options are in lieu, that is one, and then given the 15 that they're credited, they can also go find spaces as reference. And so if I'm missing another option, I look to my colleagues, but that's generally the options before you. In lieu, provide the space, or change the use. That's
right. Okay.
Or a smaller space that would drive. So that's another. If you match the utilization of the square feet with the 15, I've seen that on a restaurant, for example.
Reduce the scope.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. I don't have any other questions, so thank you very much. And Councilwoman McKellen.
Thank you, Mayor. I think this has brought up a whole nother issue. I think that this will continue to keep coming up as more businesses, start up in Old Town. I happen to, like the mayor said, I have been to the original site, which was J. Chu, and then it became Old Town Tavern, and now that it's moved over to Backdoor, I have frequented all three places. I don't think the parking demand will change. I think the size of the building is changing. So I completely am supporting this because the function has been the same in all three places. It's not truly changing. I used to work in the Pepperwood building. I've seen how it worked. My office was there for years. I don't think that is the issue. I think the greater issue is the in lieu of parking and how we're handling it. I think that will call for a study session all on its own sometime in the future, because there are so many questions that nobody seems to be able to answer tonight that are impacting this business's livelihood, and it truly is moving from one space to another, so I will be supporting this.
Thank you. Councilwoman Whitehead.
I just really appreciate your remarks, so I'm glad you got up. And, I do want to comment on the in lieu. The in lieu isn't for a private business to buy parking spots in a garage or anywhere else. The in lieu is to contribute to shared parking. So while $80,000 a year doesn't buy a lot of parking spots for the city, together with other in lieu, the idea is it would. And I want to recognize that $80,000 for a small business a year is a tremendous amount of money. So I do appreciate that. I just want to make sure I understand this. Like I said, even after watching the Planning Commission, I'm finding some questions. And what I am leaning towards is, if I don't support this, is supporting a continuance, because nobody wants to put a business out of business. But so there's the original site, which is the Old Town Tavern. Did you are you already out of that business? Are you out of that building?
Correct.
Okay, so that building's gone. Was that a bar?
I believe that those owners are asking you for a beer and wine license to reopen it.
Oh, so it's staying. So your original facility, your original bar, the Old Town building, I thought it was having problems, so it was vacant. It was falling apart, or somebody said something?
It does have problems. It is vacant, but they're attempting to get a beer and wine license. I think they have an application before the city now.
Oh, so they do. So, okay, so that's a separate bar that will come forward, but for that property, they're just going to be asking for the Series 6. They don't have to ask for anything else, correct?
They will not be asking for a Series 6. A beer and wine license.
Oh, 12.
Is a different.
Oh, okay, beer and wine. Okay, I don't know the liquor licenses. Okay, so the new location, so your client has already moved to the new location, and the new location is operating as a restaurant right now.
Correct. Has been for 4 years.
Okay. Somehow that wasn't clear in the planning commission meeting. So you've been operating as a restaurant for 4 years. And what is the impact of live music anyway, in terms of parking? Does anybody have like an idea? It adds 20%. I mean, is that a key component of this business? I mean, I'm trying to figure out, we've just never seen any business come to us asking for this kind of in lieu. And I agree with the parking. I don't know, the Pepperwood, as I mentioned, the loss of that because of the private contract. And then, but I do agree, Second Street is always vacant at the bottom, or appears to be. So you're operating a restaurant. What is adding the most burden to your parking needs? Is it because I would think as a business, you'd be pretty motivated to lower that number, have your client lower that number and lower the $80,000 a year. I mean, that's a lot of money.
I wish I could.
Okay, so if it was not live music, would it be significantly less? If it was still operated mostly majority restaurant?
We have operated as an acoustic music bar for 16 years. Without acoustic music in that location, the bar or the restaurant will fail.
Okay, but so you've been operating that way, but in the old location, and it's just because you moved that this came up? Because you were grandfathered in the old one?
We had music in the old one. It was grandfathered in from 1985.
Okay, and so in the restaurant today, is your music today? Is it?
There's acoustic music today.
Okay. And that's, acoustic is live?
It's live.
Okay,
It's
so-
guitars. There's some applications.
So you're just expanding that, and you want to basically serve a higher proportion of liquor to food?
When we did our application with the planning department, we tried to put this into a restaurant and a bar side by side.
Okay.
That would not pass muster with the liquor board. So we had to go with a Series 6 for both locations. It's not what we wanted to do, but that's what we were forced to do. So that's why we ended up with this higher amount of parking up to this 58 places. It's simply a happenstance of the codes.
Government getting in the way a little bit.
I'm not going to say that.
Okay, it is a much more complicated than somebody coming to us and just saying, hey, we want to burden public parking. I think what I'm going to do is support, I think it seems like there's an extension possible at the state. And I just want to stress to my colleagues, what we're seeing here is the restaurant is being labeled as a bar. So you still have the restaurant and then you have the bar next door, but the restaurant is being treated as a bar and being parked accordingly, even though in a sense, that part of it's not changing.
Correct. Right now, we have a restaurant. We want to put in a bar.
Next
We just want to
door.
move the bar over 30 feet, but
Yeah.
that's the effect of it legally, is it will become a bar.
Okay. Yeah, it's, redevelopment is complicated, and this one fits that, and so I do appreciate all this explanation.
City Attorney.
Mayor and members of the council, I think it's important to point out that there are two separate items here. 3 has the recommendation regarding the liquor license, and then number 5 has to do with the CUP and the conditional use permit for the bar and for the live entertainment, and the in lieu parking's wrapped in that. In order to operate the bar, they need both. They need the approval of the liquor license and the CUP. If for some reason the council doesn't forward a recommendation, the liquor license gets approved, they can't operate the bar without the CUP. They could still probably operate the restaurant without the CUP. So there's some moving parts here to think about as you decide how you're going to vote on this.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I respond to that? Yes. So if you delay both, then if we continue both, then the state can continue their license, their decision.
The statute, ARS 4-201, doesn't provide for an extension. There'd be a possibility they might entertain one, but it's not automatic. And it'd have to be something the applicant would have to agree to.
Okay, I'll think about that.
Councilman Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. I got just a couple things contradictory I wanted to clear up. Casey, the city staff liaison, said that currently Old Town Tavern is not allowed to play live music.
We do not have an entertainment permit at this point. However, our position is that Old Town Tavern has been grandfathered to play music for 40 years. So we're relying on our grandfathered status.
So would a staff member agree that you're allowed to play?
I doubt that the staff would agree to that.
So you're admitting that you're out of compliance with that?
We're out of compliance with the planning department's understanding of the law. But my understanding of the law is that we're grandfathered and it goes with the owner.
Mayor, if I may, we entered a settlement agreement a number of years ago with Downtown Tavern, and they are allowed to play non-amplified live music on a portion of their patio. And there was actual settlement agreement with the city on that. I don't remember how many years ago, but it did occur maybe 10 years ago or more.
The staff presentation that was given to the council and the public said they're not entitled to live music. So there's a little bit of contradiction there.
I believe that's inaccurate because I worked on the settlement agreement and we mapped out specifically on the patio where they could provide live music that was not amplified.
I'd like to vote on my motion now. Oh, so if I call the question, thank you, Mayor.
For continuance?
Yeah.
To the next available or whenever?
For a date to be determined.
Okay. All right. All those in favor or opposed? Guess it doesn't matter. That motion passes, and we will move right along and see you at some point in the future. Thank you. All right, did you get everything you need on 3 and 5? That was on 3 and 5, right? Okay, so we're good with that. So that concludes the consent agenda items on the 2 items that were removed. So I'm going to take public comment on non-agendized items. Public comment is reserved for Scottsdale citizens, business owners, and/or property owners to comment on non-agendized items that are within the council's jurisdiction. No official council action can be taken on these items that the speakers will discuss, and the speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. If you wish to speak on a non-agendized item, please let the city clerk know. And I show we have 3 speakers, starting with Melissa Kemp, then Steve Sutton, and followed by Stephen Cross. And you'll want to stand over here where Melissa's heading.
Melissa Kemp, McCormick Ranch. I believe you've got my address on record. This is in my 3 minutes tonight. I'm speaking not just to our council members, but to anybody who may be thinking about speaking in the future sometime, or somebody who's watching this video. In the first 2 sessions, I talked about open public comment and its function as an early warning system and I spoke about broadly civic engagement as an asset, a valuable asset. Tonight is about something deeper. Tonight is about the courage and resolve it takes for somebody from the public to do this, to come up and speak to council. At the lectern, you are exposed. I'm here, I'm alone, I'm on camera. My voice is recorded. If I shudder, if I tremble, if I make a mistake, it's there for everybody to see. How I look, all of that. There's no hiding. People physically react to this kind of pressure. It's one of the greatest public fears. Who hasn't had that nightmare of waking up naked in a crowd? That kind of thing just will haunt you. But this isn't a nightmare, this is real, and this is hard. People do this anyway, even though it's that hard. That's not a flaw in open public comment. That's your proof point. Because if it's this hard and people do it anyway, then you know they care enough to go through this kind of pressure. People will register in advance. They go through a metal detector. They wait for their name to be called. They prepare. They do their planning. They time things. And they show up knowing that they're going to be heard and they want you to listen. So it's important that we respect open public comment and the comments of the people who use that time. I'm going to contrast that with what's going on up here, where you've got city council members who are seated behind a raised platform on a dais. It's easy for them to see me. It's not as easy for me to see you. The sight lines are not great. You have no time clock, no requirement to be relevant, no equivalent exposure. There is a power imbalance built into this system. It's built into this room. It's there on purpose. Here's my main point tonight. Open public comment is the one of the very few places where even narrowly, briefly, that imbalance shrinks. Because this allows me to be heard, and it allows us to put accountability to our civic servants front and center in this room. So when you restrict public comment, it doesn't feel neutral. It feels like you're redesigning a system to protect the comfort up there, increase the pressure down here, and weaken the accountability that public comment is there to do. In 2025, this council majority forced people to come back to work in the office because you said being there matters. You had to be showing up and present to do your job. Well, guess what? This is a representative government. You are here because this is where the job happens. So tonight I'm asking you to rethink public comment, increase access, and when we're here, please pay attention. Put down your texting, put down your phones, and give the respect to the people who are speaking that deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Next, I have Steve Sutton.
Mayor Borowski, I have a request. Is there any possibility the graphic that showed the number of parking spaces in that last presentation could be put up on the
Why don't you step up to the microphone so we, and you want to start the 3 minutes?
So
Do you want to start 3 minutes right now?
I wanted to make a request first before I started.
Sure, go ahead. What's the request?
That the graphic that was used in the last presentation that showed the number of parking spaces at the various areas be put back up on the screen.
Which graphic was it, Steve?
It was the one that showed an overview of all the parking areas near the Old Town Tavern, and it had numbers assigned showing the number of parking spaces at each of those areas. Is it possible that that could be put back up?
So I don't know how readily available that would be. I have no problem with you doing that if we can pop it on the screen. And this is comment that, as you well know, is reserved for non-agendized items. And so you're not speaking on the last item, right? That's not the
No,
point,
I am not
right?
going to be speaking on the
You
last
just
item.
want the graphic of
the graphic itself.
Well, I have no problem doing that if we want to, anyone have that handy? Okay, well, that was easy. All right, well, we spent more time talking about it than it was to pull it up.
That's it. Yeah.
All right, the wizard, City Clerk Ben Lane.
Thank you.
Well done.
It wasn't
Ben.
me, it was the staff.
Okay. We're going to start your 3 minutes. 1, 2, 3, go.
If I'm looking at this graphic correctly, the parking corral is shown on this graphic. And it's showing that there are 98 parking spaces at the parking corral, when in reality, there's over 200. Someone has failed to count parking spaces on the lower level when they made this graphic. And now for my comment. Steve Sutton, address on record. Good evening, Honorable Lisa Borowski, Mayor of Scottsdale, and other council members. I will be asking the council to answer questions on an issue within their purview at the end of my comment. But first, I want the council to consider the fact that thousands of Scottsdale residents are aware of 3 circumstances that would logically support the decision to spend $15 to $20 million to build a parking garage in front of the historic old Adobe Mission and end the 17-year tradition of the farmers market at the parking corral. A new parking study would be a supporting circumstance. The 2015 parking study did not support building a garage. In October 2025, the city manager refused to conduct a new parking study, so that supporting circumstance is unavailable. Voter approval would be a supporting circumstance. As pointed out by me at the last city council meeting, the language of the 2019 bond election ballot clearly shows that was not a vote for building a garage at the parking corral. Thousands of citizens petitioning for a garage would be a supporting circumstance. Of course, the opposite is occurring with thousands of Scottsdale residents petitioning against building a garage, currently over 4,000 Scottsdale residents. So considering the lack of logical supporting circumstances to build a garage, Scottsdale residents are asking themselves, why are Barry Graham and Solange Whitehead, who have a record of acrimoniously not cooperating, and other council members, with the exception of Mayor Borowski, united in an effort to force the farmers market to move so a parking garage can be built in front of Scottsdale's historic old Adobe Mission? Incompetence and political corruption could be the answer to those questions. The proposed building of a parking garage at the parking corral and the forcing the farmers market to move appears to be a case of opposing council members of the current and previous councils agreeing to a "we'll give you this if you give us that" deal, and the rewarding of individuals who politically and financially supported their candidacy. It certainly is not because of a proven need for a new garage or the farmers market benefiting from a move or because it's in the best interest wanted by Scottsdale residents. Councilman Graham, you're continuing to claim that voters approved the garage has people thinking you are a shameless casual liar. Councilman Whitehead, as more residents learn the truth of how the farmers market operates, your claims that the farmers market will benefit from moving has people thinking you are a laughingstock. Council members, do you understand the implication of over 4,000 residents and property owners and business owners in less than 4 months signing a petition telling you don't build a garage, don't move the farmers market? Thank you very much.
We're going to give you 10. Okay, you're good. All right, thank you so much.
Point of order. Madam Mayor, is there a decorum rule for just tone and within the speech on non-agendized public items?
No, you're aware of the rules, Vice Mayor Clausman. Not that, I mean, vulgarity and yelling and threats, I guess, would be examples of those. Thank you. All right, moving right along to Stephen Cross.
The majority of this conversation will be for Krista Cross, the owner of Select Education Micro School. I just wanted to make a quick introduction of her soon-to-be proposal at 9201 East Happy Valley Road. It's the existing Living Water Lutheran Church. It does have 144 parking stalls and 16 bike racks. For 40 students is the proposal. 2 classrooms will be leased from the church. There aren't any scheduling conflicts, et cetera. We've planned that out with the church. No physical changes are proposed to the existing education building. The worship facility is a separate building and the office is a separate building. There are very few schools in the Troon Happy Valley area and also nothing in Rio Verde. So this is highly desired, but she's limiting the school to 40 students. And Krista solely owns this business, so I shouldn't speak anymore. But Krista's an educator, and she'll describe that.
Hello. Hello, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Krista Cross. I've been an educator for more than 30 years in Arizona. I previously owned a school for 21 years, went back just to teaching. And I don't mean just, but you know, it's simpler than running a school. And I was approached by a group of parents asking me to please start a micro school again to serve them in this area where they're not feeling they can get to a school quickly, et cetera. I considered it, and I really am very excited to find a location like the Living Waters Church on Happy Valley, because it really couldn't be better. It has an enclosed playground. It has great parking. It has great classrooms that are already set up as classrooms, and I'm looking forward to hopefully getting the school up and running for this upcoming school year so my students still have a home. It is a private Montessori elementary, and around us are all sorts of preschools, and then a little bit further out there's the public schools, but these parents are looking for something, and that's why it's select education, something smaller where they can get the attention that I'm known for. And I actually won a National Teaching Award for Arizona, but it was a national. I represented Arizona back in 2000. And I was recognized for this exact thing, which is really paying attention to the needs of every student uniquely. So I'm very excited about the project and for hopefully you guys to review it.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to tell us about it. All right, Michael Fernandez.
This is my public comment card, right? Because I have a petition too.
Non-agendized.
Right.
Public comment, yes. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Do they have the? How can you expand that thing? You see the bottom post.
So just for clarification, Mike Fernandez, I
Yes.
don't want you to be confused. There's not an additional 3 minutes for the petition.
No, I have a petition. That I had two petitions. They're only giving me 3 minutes for two petitions, which I cannot understand. But this is a public comment.
So just so you know, you don't get 3 additional minutes with the
No,
petition.
this is.
Okay, I just want to make
so
sure we
this
had
public comment is about the parking garage.
Gotcha.
The petition is a completely different thing.
Okay, got it.
Are we
Thank
clear?
you. Yes.
Okay, so thank you for your patience. I'm new at this. I haven't done it in 45 years. Michael Fernandez, address on record. For most of my life, I've been involved in Scottsdale. I grew up working at Pottery Paradise and ended up owning it. Pottery Paradise was founded in 1951, the same year Scottsdale was incorporated. In 1999, I stood shoulder to shoulder with citizens fighting the canals of Scottsdale. The people voted 54 to 46 to kill that project dead. Here's what Councilman Graham, Councilman Duboskus, and Councilman Quasman don't understand. When that battle was fought, Graham was a 14-year-old kid, Duboskus was 23 living in California, and Quasman was 16 living in Tucson. They weren't here. They haven't bled for this place. They can't possibly grasp the fierce love and protective passion we longtime residents hold for our old town, the beating heart of everything Scottsdale claims to be. If they understood, they would have championed creating a downtown task force on January 7th, giving stakeholders a real voice in shaping our collective future, the future that determines whether Scottsdale remains an envy of the Southwest or becomes just another forgettable suburb. Instead, they turned a deaf ear to the public, just as they are doing in building a 3-story garage in historic Old Town, directly across from the old Adobe Mission and Cavalier's blacksmith shop. 2 structures whose beginnings predate Arizona as a state and Scottsdale as a place. It was clear on January 7th, Mr. Quasman mocked those in attendance by making a post on X. Perhaps if he owned his home instead of renting, he would have a stakeholders mentality. Council should be paying attention to the public's business, not mocking them from the dais during council sessions. They should also remember that voters have long memories and there's an election coming up. It's not too late to stop the Old Town parking garage. The clock is ticking, and the question is simple. Will we let Scottsdale Soul be turned over to bureaucrats and disingenuous politicians?
Thank you, Mike. All right, that concludes the non-agendized public comment. And next we have receipt of citizen petitions. So we do have 2 citizen petitions, but I think it's just one, right?
Yeah. Mayor, it's 2 petitions, but he has 3 minutes to present both petitions to the council.
Okay, so Mike, you still have 2 petitions. Is that right? Okay, so we're going to call Michael Fernandez back up. No worries, thank you.
Michael Fernandez, address on record. It's 27 days, it's day 27 and counting since City Manager Greg Caton suspended Mayor Borowski's Chief of Staff Lamar Whitmer without explanation, paralyzing the mayor's office and blocking her agenda, the agenda on which she was elected. To date, no reason, justification, or explanation has been provided to Mr. Whitmer, the mayor, and the public. This is unprecedented breach of American due process. Is more like something out of the former Soviet Union. Simply put, show me the man, and I'll show you the violation. The mayor has been forced to operate with only a skeleton staff. This isn't an accident. It's a deliberate obstruction of Mayor Borowski's agenda to involve residents and stakeholders in city affairs. This is a blatant attack on the mayor's residents. This is a blatant attack on the mayor and residents. Mr. Caton has repeatedly instructed city staff not to work with the mayor, making her an outcast in her own administration. The suspension of her chief of staff is simply the most brazen escalation yet. Even more disturbing, based on restrictions in the city's January 14th letter, Mr. Whitmer has essentially been confined to his house during working hours, placed under what amounts to house arrest and without being told why. Mr. Caton's broader record is equally troubling. After barely 6 months of residency, Mr. Caton was appointed city manager, and in a Stalinistic maneuver, he purged the city's upper management with decades of institutional knowledge. He's replaced expertise with fear, turning City Hall into a place where employees are too intimidated to speak up or work with their elected mayor. This isn't how America works. This isn't how Scottsdale became the envy of the Southwest. Mr. Caton's actions are a clear example of Ronald Reagan's axiom: government isn't the solution, it's the problem. The City Council must act now, enact a policy requiring basic due process. Anyone suspended deserves to know the charges against them, and so does the public, especially when that suspension cripples an elected official's ability to govern. No secret accusations, no silent suspensions, no house confinement without explanation. Just transparency, accountability, and respect for the democratic process.
Thank you. Were you going to pass that out? Do you have a written petition?
No, you already have it.
Oh, okay, got it. I don't think we have copies of that up here. Only by email. Okay. So, anyone have any? You had 2 petitions. Okay. All right. So on this, we have 3 options in terms of making a motion, which are displayed on the screen, but not there yet. Direct the city manager or other responsible charter officer to agendize the petition for further discussion. Direct the city manager or other responsible charter officer to investigate the matter and prepare a written response or with a copy to the petitioner, or take no action. So, anyone? City Clerk.
Mayor, I apologize. Just to clarify, so there's two petitions. We'd like the council to act on each one individually. So the first petition is requests that the city council reenact its ban on electronic devices from the dais during council meetings. So that's the first petition that we have agendized to have the
Okay.
council reenact its ban.
Yes, Councilwoman Littlefield.
When you're talking about mechanical devices, are you talking about iPads or devices that would hold the council agenda and the detail of that as we go through each item in detail?
So Mayor and Councilwoman Littlefield and members of the council, we can't have a discussion on the petition. You can do one of three things. It's either direct the city manager or other responsible charter officer to agendize the petition for further discussion, direct the city manager or other responsible charter officer to investigate and provide a report or a written response back to the council petition, or take no action. So those are the three options.
I move we take no action.
Okay.
Second.
I don't see anybody else on the board, so I'm just going to speak to this while it's become an issue before we take the vote. While it's become an issue with, for various different reasons, with texting, posting, being on your device, I was enthusiastically supported killing this or this council rule that you couldn't have devices. And the point I made back then on day one, I think it was day one that we were in office, was if you can't, we're elected officials and we're adults, and if you can't trust your elected official to be on this dais responsibly, we don't need a rule, you just need to say so in elections, right? That's what we have elections for. So I have to tell you, as you know, as much drama and controversy that's been surrounding this, I'm completely opposed to it. I think that, that your petition, Mike, I think it's in good spirit and I understand the issue. But, you know, that's when you hold people responsible through elections, you know, whatever your position is on that. And if we can't be adults and be trusted to be on our devices when necessary, and speaking for myself, it is necessary occasionally for me, because candidly, I need something from a very important person in my office, and it's just would be weird to walk down or, you know, knock on the door and announce it. So, and for lots of reasons. I have a daughter who's 21, she's in California. She frequently needs me because it's frequently an emergency, okay? Perceived or otherwise, I'm just saying. Money does not count, okay? Sorry, I digress. I digress, but there are emergencies nonetheless. So I'm a no on this. I understand the issue, but I don't think this is the right vehicle to enforce that issue. So with that, I don't know that anybody else has something they want to say there, so let's take a vote on do nothing, which I'm supporting. All right. Then the second one, well, that's more complicated for me. I feel a bit conflicted. It's not a technical conflict, so I'm not going to recuse myself for it. Then there's no secret that the individual and example that Mr. Fernandez has discussed with us here tonight as the basis for the petition does have a direct impact on me, albeit not financially or any basis for a conflict. And there's also no secret that I have been very bothered by the way that this happened and was articulated to the public. And I am hopeful, we're working on that, we're gonna work on that, and I'm hopeful that does not happen in our future. And I'm hoping this gets resolved quickly. But I do think it's worthy of an overall policy discussion, and I think it's important to have that. You know, we have a human resources department and a city manager that makes decisions for staff. Again, this is only impacting the mayor's office. I'm not going to be the only mayor here. You know, I'm here now, and there will be future mayors. And for the benefit of the office, I do think there needs to be clarity on what the role is and how that is played out, and how that is affected in situations where there's some allegation. I do think it's fair to let that be known to at least the individual impacted by it at a minimum, and to the direct report, which would be the mayor, ideally, together with the city manager and charter officers. So with that, I'm going to call on the city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. I just need to interject here and remind the city council that these petitions are not agendized for discussion, which means there's 3 things that the council can do on any of these. So I'd ask the council to refrain from further commentary on the items and just select one of those 3 options, please.
So I totally get your point, and that wasn't for purpose of debate or discussion. I was just going to explain the basis for my motion, which is, number 1, to direct the city manager or any other responsible charter officer, which would be you, presumably, to agendize the petition for further discussion. That's my motion.
I'll second that.
Can she speak to her second? Yes?
I think there's a problem with the way we've agendized these in that we don't allow for discussion. I think in the future that we could agendize them for discussion if that's what the council wants. But it's set up specifically with 3 options, and it was intended to basically receive these and do one of 3 items, not to have a debate or a discussion on the merits of agendizing it. If that's what the council wants in the future, we can do that, but it's not set up that way.
May I speak to my second? Is that okay?
Technically, no. I mean, but you do so at your own risk.
Well, can I just interject? With totally respect your judgment here and your advice, but with any motion, you know, we've had these come before us lots of times, and this is the reason why we're going to take no action, for example, if we were taking no action. I just did that in the last one, so why is this one treated differently? In fact, I can think of many examples.
Because I was forbearing without interjecting. I think that if we want to have discussion, we need to agendize it for discussion, and it's not agendized for discussion. And justifying one's vote is also discussion. And we can change this in the future where people can speak to the vote and discuss these, but that's not how it's agendized. And I'm very mindful of open meeting law complaints. I've had to respond to a lot of them in the last couple months.
So again, I can think of so many examples over the last year when this exact agenda item was preceded by a discussion about it with staff and, you know, more further fleshing out it. But it's okay. I hear what you're saying. And my apologies. You know, that's kind of a new discussion on this one. So with that, let's take a vote. No, you're not allowed to speak. You just said so.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a counter motion, an alternative motion.
Okay, no problem. Go right ahead.
Madam Mayor, I move to take no action.
Second.
All right, we're going to vote on the alternative motion. All right, so that passes, so we won't even have to get to my long-winded motion. Moving right along. Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. All right, that is, I think, all she wrote. Nope, we have, let's see. Oh, this is mine. Where is Miss Monica Boyd? You're here. There we go. So I spent a I'm not going to say anything before I get to this, never mind. Hold on. This item, number 11, is a mayor and council item, and requesting council approval of my reappointment of Monica Boyd as the head of the Merit System appointee for the Public Safety Personnel Retirement System, Police and Fire Boards. I'm going to make the motion to reappoint Monica Boyd as the head of the Merit System.
Second.
Thank you very much. I don't see any requests to speak, so with that, please register your vote. All right, work study sessions. Work study sessions are a less formal setting for the, do we not vote? Oh. Why isn't the button working? We got it. There we go. Work study sessions provide a less formal setting for the mayor and council to discuss specific topics with each other and city staff. Work study sessions provide an opportunity for staff to receive direction from the council and for the public to observe these discussions. We have received some public comment on this, and as soon as I find my list. So let's take the public comment on the work study, starting with French Thompson, followed by Bob Pedgman, Andrew Gould, who I believe has left the building, and Sonny Kirtley. And there's more, but we'll get to those. So I guess I should ask, say if Jude Now is still here, and, okay, David Smith will take that place then, it sounds like. Go ahead, French.
I'm just wondering how long I can stand here and delay before I get to start my 3 minutes. I thought maybe I could just stand here and shuffle my paper a little bit. Steve entertains me when he does that. That's good. My name's French Thompson. My address is on record. Madam Mayor, my city council, I spent a lot of time working with city staff and city council on the previous tourism development, tourism plan. And one of the things that never showed up in it was there weren't any actionable or deliverables. The whole plan was basically just aspirational. You know, aspirational is winning the lottery. I mean, I've got that. Probably a lot of you have that. The only problem is if you don't go buy a ticket, you can't do it. So there's a big difference between aspirations and actually doing what it takes to make things happen. So I would like to see a future plan have some actionable plans, and I'd like to have it have some deliverables. So some of the things that happened before is that we hired these outside consultants, which I've seen this over the many years that I've been here in downtown. They've got a column A, a column B, and a column C, and they go to Tulsa, and they go to Denver, and they go to Scottsdale, and they go to Mesa, and they just pick something out of column A, column B, and column C. They don't really look at the existing assets. This city of Scottsdale has got assets that other cities don't have. We have the world-class Old Town Scottsdale. We've got a world-famous Scottsdale Arts District. Those are assets that need to be promoted and moved forward. You don't need to bring in outside businesses to do events here when you have homegrown assets that keep their tax money here, they keep their salaries here, they keep their employees here, and they don't take their profits out of state. So when people talk about bringing in outside things, outside events, that's how you grow it. No, you grow it by promoting what you have here and making what you have here better. Honestly, if you got a great garden, you still go out there and fertilize it and weed it and spend some time with it, give it a little bit of love. You don't just bring in a whole different bunch of dirt and just dump it on it and throw in some new plants. No, you cultivate it, and that's what City of Scottsdale needs to do with this tourism plan. So I just would urge you, City Council, to direct staff to include actionable strategies and request deliverables, much like you asked the Museum of the West to have some deliverables and show them to you. So that's what I'd like to see in this plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob Pejman.
Thank you, Mayor Borowski. Council members, name is Bob Pejman. Address is on record. And I want to go back to the Keene survey. So about 3-4 months ago, the city invested money, and a company called Keene did a survey of 150 Old Town stakeholders. And the result of that survey showed a major disconnect between what the stakeholders would like to have be done as far as a tourism plan and the city's existing tourism strategic plan. Major disconnect. And I'm assuming that this work study is here to bridge that gap, right? So to have that input of those 150 stakeholders be reflected in a new tourism plan, in a rewrite, and not just the 150 plus more. So, but what is Old Town? Old Town is really a collection of existing core assets. What are those assets? Small retail shops, restaurants, art galleries, museums, civic center, waterfront, et cetera, right? But when I look at this plan and I glance, the plan looks, kind of convoluted in the way that you don't know where it's really going. However, I did a word search. The word event occurs 150 times or more. But when you look at these other core assets, Scottsdale Museum is the West, happens only once. There's 0 mention of the word art galleries. There's 4 mention of the word restaurants, 5 mention of the word retail. I mean, we're not talking about, this is self-serving about the galleries, the retail we're talking about. In the meantime, over 150 references to events. On page 25, it says, attract new year-round events. And that's fine. Events are great, right? But this plan should prioritize the existing core assets. So no wonder the result of the survey was so poor, because the merchants don't feel valued. They feel that they're here providing a great product, great service. Collectively, they constitute Old Town. And instead, every consultant comes in and wants to put the focus on outside events. And I think that this is a great opportunity in the rewrite to make sure that not only the existing core assets are prioritized, we should actually make a special place in this plan to include the Old Town marketing plan in it and tie it directly to the 5% of the bed tax. We need specific stuff, enough of this aspirational stuff. Some of the language used in here is explore opportunities to expand the promotion of retail. How much more unactionable can you make that, right? With all these qualifiers that make it not something that's actionable. I do believe that since the Keene survey was so effective, we don't have to reinvent the wheel on this. We should use that survey along with the input direction from council for the city to go back and basically come up with a new plan. I hope this is not going to be a 6-month process. I think because you already have the survey and the recent temperature and stuff here, you can actually speed this into a 3-month process and come up with a very solid plan that really takes advantage of Old Town's great assets. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, next we have Andrew Gold, just making sure he's not here. Sonny Kirtley. Nope, I don't see her either. Robert Marsh. No. Jude, no, we don't think he's here. David Smith, you're up. Welcome, former council member David Smith.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So by default, I get a chance to address you. You have a big job ahead of you, and I'm the only thing standing between you and doing that tonight, so I'm going to be as brief as I can. But I'll echo many of the comments that were made by the previous speakers. I think we need an actionable plan with deliverables and metrics for measuring a marketing program for the city's greatest asset. It's not galleries, it's not restaurants, it's collectively all the businesses that comprise, and by the way, also the government-owned properties that comprise the downtown area as the major tourist attraction for the city. So their plea to you is not to support their business, their plea is to support the Old Town visitor attraction. It is enumerated in the plan. There is a section that talks about the importance of Old Town, but just nothing talks about how we're actually going to market it. One other thing I would make as a suggestion, when it says in the plan that you want to make sure that we actually consider tourism on the actions that we take. There's a way you can do that. Just as you have on your council reports a financial impact of every decision, you could add the requirement of a tourism impact for every decision. So if we're going to build a building, what's the impact? If we're going to do a road, what's the impact? It would be an easy thing for staff to address, and it would give you some guidance as to what these initiatives impact on tourism. And finally, I'll say, I know in another section of the report, it doesn't relate to Old Town, but you're going to look at the feasibility of looking or considering a new and larger performing arts venue. I would urge you to put together a consortium of interested parties, the folks who actually run the performing arts activities in the city. And start with the biggest, Music Fest up north, or Scottsdale Arts, what they do, or put in some of the smaller venues. For example, Ravenscroft, if you've ever been there, or Don Bluth's Theater, or Desert Stages, or the Kerr Cultural Center. There are many, many interested parties, and they need to be collectively all heard from as you consider this. You have a big job ahead of you. I hope you can bring definition and clarity to the plan. Certainly, everybody's waiting to hear for that, so good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Appreciate your input. All right, that concludes the public comment on the work study session. And with that, I'll invite Kevin Burke, Senior Director of Economic Development and Tourism, to take us through these slides.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Kevin Burke, and I serve as the Senior Director for Economic Development and Tourism for the City of Scottsdale. I'll appreciate your patience and forbearance this evening. This is my first opportunity to speak with you in these chambers, so thank you.
Welcome, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's been a tremendously exciting first 6 weeks, I'll say that. So our purpose here tonight is to discuss and for staff to solicit input on the Tourism and Events Strategic Plan. Excuse me. Scottsdale has a successful track record of using strategic plans to guide our tourism efforts. The current plan was adopted by the City Council in January 2023 and was intended to be implemented through 2027. The full document was included in your materials and is organized around 8 experience principles that are listed here. I believe the plan has served the organization and the community well. However, with the rapid pace of change in the global and the regional economy, as well as evolving expectations of both visitors and local stakeholders, staff believes it is timely to begin development of the next iteration of our tourism strategic plan. As Senior Director of Economic Development and Tourism, I strongly believe that using the strategic plan to provide a roadmap for our team's efforts, to establish goals and key performance indicators, and to have a framework to track our performance. So tonight, I am requesting Mayor and Council's input on the process, structure, and content of the new strategic plan. And my team stands ready to engage a broad and representative group of stakeholders to develop a document which we would then bring back for consideration by this body. With that, I'll be happy to address any questions and take direction from the Mayor and Council on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Burke, thank you for your presentation, and We're glad you're here. Welcome on board.
Thank you.
I want to thank my colleagues for bringing this back up for the council's consideration. I'm very appreciative that they chose to do that. I'm really happy we're taking another look at the tourism strategic plan. I think the goal of this, in my mind, is to put an emphasis on the year-round and the known assets that we have in our city. The museums, galleries, performing arts, independent restaurants, specialty stores, civic center, waterfront, public art, from the southern border to the northern. The things that really define us and bring visitors here. I agree with Mr. Pejman. He pointed out the Keene survey, and you've probably already studied up on that, gives us a solid input from 150 Old Town stakeholders that we should use to guide a recraft of the plan. Now, this is going to be a group effort. My vision for this was not a wholesale change, repeal everything and replace it with something. This was just a refinement. That was kind of my vision for it. As you know, the existing plan did come to us from some, I shouldn't say some, but from an expensive Toronto-based consulting firm, and it does kind of read. It's got nice pictures, and I got no problem with the pictures. Let's keep the pictures, right? It's got a lot of flowery language. It makes me feel warm and fuzzy. But there's a lot of things that are in it that read like generic, off-the-rack boilerplate that doesn't deeply dive and celebrate Scottsdale's unique character. As David Smith mentioned, actionable plan with specific deliverables, or clear steps, or measurable outcomes. But I mean, truthfully, I would say almost any focused rewrite, it would be hard. I think it would be hard if you gave this an honest try to give it a focused rewrite. It will be a big improvement. So I kind of want to keep my remarks brief. I do have these advisories because these, I've been part of these plans when I was on Planning Commission, I was on Transportation Commission, and we go through these action plans and master plans and general plans, and I've seen how they can snowball, and they can veer off course, and they can rat hole, and people can just start, getting fixated on things that before you know it, you're completely off mission. Really try to resist that temptation. This is not a repeal and replace. As the way I saw it, it was a refinement. I don't think this should require an expensive consulting firm. That's kind of what you said. That's kind of what I heard you say. I agree with you. I think that we have the data before us. We have the stakeholders. I think it should be collaborative. I think it should be consensus-driven. I think that we have the experts on staff with the know-how to do it. I do. We have stakeholders. We know how to find them. We know how to engage them. I don't think it should be a 6 or 9 month process, A lot of these plans, it's almost like the longer I take, the more time I put into it, the longer I make you wait, the more I'm justifying why I'm here. Doesn't mean it has to be overnight or next week, but I think that, belaboring it, protracting it needlessly, I don't think is necessary. I think we can resist that. I don't think we need a long study to learn what we already know. I do think maybe the tough part, and I don't know, maybe this will maybe be staff's decision, but maybe you want to interface or go through it with TDC or something like that. That may be kind of what you're thinking. But these plans are updated. These plans get updated all the time, these types of plans, where you take the prior plan and you just, you update, you improve what needs improved, and you set aside maybe what's outdated or expired. Maybe staff will liaise with TDC and get their input, because I do think it should be, like I said, be consensus-driven. I think it should be bottom-up. I think that might have been a little bit of the problem with the last one, is it wasn't so bottom-up. It was probably a little more top-down. I think the toughest part of this exercise is, like all these exercises or these plans, is building a consensus on reshaping goals and defining success. Success definition, I think, is, especially in the world of marketing, you know, that's one of the things I respect about marketing, about marketers. They find ways to say, you know, how they've returned, you know, how they brought return on investment, because marketing is sometimes can be difficult to measure that. So that's your expertise. That's why we hire experts like you and your team that we can lean on. And so I don't want it to, you know, grow ball or stone is something that's, you know, some unexpected leviathan that we didn't see coming. Don't want that. And again, my gratitude goes to my colleagues and my appreciation to them, my appreciation to you for the alacrity you've shown in taking this on. So thank you, Mr. Burke. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman McCallan.
Thank you, Mayor. Welcome to the city of Scottsdale, Mr. Burke.
Thank you.
Last week, Mr. Burke and I had the pleasure of attending a forum on tourism and how it affects Scottsdale, Tempe, and kind of the metropolitan area. Those present at the tourism summit, that was what it was called, Tourism Summit, I was trying to remember what they called it, that was put on by Congressman Stanton. We had the pleasure of having the National Transportation and Tourism Authority for all of the U.S. They're from DC and his assistants, and they were talking about Scottsdale, and I kind of felt sorry for Tempe because it was in Tempe, but they just kept throwing accolades on Scottsdale. And it was great for Kevin to be there and to hear how wonderful, and you know, he was pretty excited to be representing Scottsdale. But one of the things they did say that we do right is the city of Scottsdale depends on Experience Scottsdale. We use the professionals, and this gentleman who's the CEO, the head tourism authority for all of US, said that Experience Scottsdale is the #1 destination marketing organization in all of the US. And we have it, and we're smart enough to use them. So I thought that was very exciting for us to hear that, for other cities to hear that. And so what I would encourage the staff to do, Mr. Burke, is to listen to the professionals, as well as what Mr. Graham said, listen to the stakeholders, listen to our citizens, members of the Tourism Development Commission. There's a reason why they were appointed. The people on that commission are professionals in the tourism industry, and they're also residents of Scottsdale. That's very important. What some of the speakers tonight said, I think it was Mr. Thompson, he said to listen to the stakeholders from throughout Scottsdale, how it affects Scottsdale. And I realize Old Town is its own entity, and it's a geographic area per se, but other events affect Old Town. An example, the Open. People come for the Open knowing that they're going to spend their evenings in Old Town. They may attend Barrett-Jackson during the day, but in the nighttime, they're going to spend their time in Old Town. They're going to attend the Art Walk on Thursdays. They're going to attend maybe concerts at the Center for the Arts, things of that nature. So ancillary events that may happen in Scottsdale, outside of Scottsdale, those are also stakeholders, because when they advertise to the citizens throughout the world, those people are also going to come to Old Town. So we need to be looking at all of those stakeholders, I believe, not just, in Old Town, but those that are interdependent and ancillary of Old Town is something that I would suggest. And we heard that at the summit the other day, how these major events, even in Tempe, they were saying how booked up Tempe was for the Phoenix Open that happens in Scottsdale. So those would be my suggestions. And again, welcome. You have a big task ahead of you, but I think that you're going to enjoy it because you're going to find out just how great Old Town is. Thank you.
Councilwoman DeBoscos.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Hi, Kevin.
Hello.
So I think when Councilman Graham originally approached this idea, what he was sort of broached the idea is we have a tourism plan. It's not specific about some of the things that we've been interested in discussing over the last several months. And so maybe we have some opportunity, instead of sitting here with a big 5-year plan that's not maybe hitting us on all cylinders, that maybe we could do a few updates. And so I presume that you're thinking about the long-term plan, but you're also then refining what we're doing today and going to do that. So my comments really are going to address the long-term plan and sort of where I see us having some holes. And then also, I think you can glean from that what we need to maybe work on in the short term as well. I feel like part of what we need to do every time we do something like this really is to identify our strengths and our culture, because over the course of 5-7 years, we do adjust over time, right? So Scottsdale is cowboy chic. Scottsdale is food, art, open space, health, sports, baseball, golf, soccer, all those good things. We even have the Fiesta Bowl Foundation here, right? So we have lots of good sports, resorts, and all kinds of interesting special events. So taking a look at us as a holistic view, we also have Old Town. We also have museums. We also have this whole big, long list of assets. And I think some of that can get lost when we look at and we try to define 8 ideas, right? So taking a look at our culture, we really are very unique here. We're really proud of that. And so I think our tourism can highlight that a little bit more. We have so many James Beard finalists. Our restaurants, #1 restaurant, the most romantic restaurant in the United States. We have some of just the most fantastic restaurants in the city of Scottsdale. It's really an honor. And so I think some of those things could really be teased out a little bit more and highlighted. We're known for our super season, and so the opportunity to bring in tourism during our super season, we're doing that really, really well. We are at max capacity at a lot of places. It's hard to get restaurant reservations. It's hard to find parking, all that good stuff. Let's work also in this tourism plan on how do we fill in the off-season, shoulder season, summer season. Let's focus on, the golf courses. All they can do is charge more in January, February, but in May, June, July, they have some openings. So let's focus on the tourism plan in the off-season. And then something that I have thought a lot about is it feels to me like when we walk through all these different venues and opportunities, a lot of it has been in silos. And so I think bringing some of our collaborators to the table, walking through what is our event season, how can we maximize and leverage each other's assets, whether it's marketing assets, maybe it's not our own dollars, right? Maybe we can get some of our partners to work together and use their dollars and maximize and sort of break down some of these silos that we've had over the years. Maybe we have super season, but we also have super weekends where we can have multiple events and really highlight an off-season weekend or two and see how we can have an impact there. Of course, all this is going to be dependent on us having metrics, being able to really identify whether it's geolocation for cell phones, things like that, and really to be able to understand the numbers of the actual economic impact of what we're doing. You know, when we talk about bringing folks into Old Town, which is, I think, what everyone would say is the one thing that's really stand out different about Scottsdale, we do want to make sure that we have places for them to park. I'll give you an example. We were in San Diego over the summer. My husband and my dad and my son went to go sailing. My mom and I took the girls to go to the Science Museum. The men couldn't find a place to park to go sailing, and they turned around, they went home. My mom and I go to Balboa Park to go to the Science Museum, and it took us 20 minutes to find a parking space. We almost went home. We never want that to happen in Scottsdale. So keeping an eye on parking in the various areas of the venues, I think, is also going to be important for our tourism plan. So we should probably consider, what else do we need? We think Scottsdale is amazing. We think we have everything, but it would probably be helpful to look at competitive cities, to look at other strategic plans, to have some conversations with your peers throughout the United States in these competitive cities and talk about what are you doing, what's doing well. Do we have venues here that we could maximize in a new way, in an interesting way? Is there something missing that we could leverage and do it even more? And is there something else that we should offer, or maybe there's another way we could consider it? So I think a competitive analysis of where does Scottsdale sit in the tourism could be very interesting. And then one of my colleagues mentioned the TDC. We do have tourism professionals that we work with, and the TDC, it feels like, I mean, I look through the agenda, I watch the meetings, but I feel like we're not leveraging their expertise, and it's very heavy on hoteliers. So maybe moving forward, we want to think about, the hotels are already doing a great job advertising. Maybe we could use some event managers. Maybe we could use some folks who work in advertising and marketing on TDC to sort of have some different thoughts and sort of to grow the TDC in a new way. And they might help push us and think differently a little bit about our tourism. So that's something to consider. I also think we should be really cognizant that this plan sets the tone. We don't listen necessarily to our contractors. Our contractors should be listening to us. So we need to really think through who we are and where we want to go and set the tone, and then we need to let our contractors know this is where you're going and these are our expectations for you at a minimum. So that concept of having activated numbers and targets for folks to hit, those are things that we should be communicating to our partners, our business partners, and making sure that everyone understands that we're setting the tone, we're paying you to do these things, rather than the other way around. The city of Scottsdale, I mean, we sell sunshine all day. It's a fantastic place to be. Anyone who comes here says, wow, this place is amazing. At the Open over the course of the weekend, I had family come in. Our daughter from Seattle, it had been raining and raining and raining. Our nephew from North Carolina, they have had bomb snow threats, things. Another nephew from Colorado, it's snowing there too. So people are thrilled to be here. This is a wonderful place to sell, and so I think this is going to be an exciting project. So thank you very much for working on it, Kevin.
Of course, thank you.
Vice Mayor Quasman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have the privilege of working with Kevin in the Economic Development Committee, and he's just an outstanding individual, and I want to thank you for all the yeoman's work you're doing and the rest of the city, the charter officers and the city staff. I want to echo just a couple points really quickly. I think Mr. Petchman is correct in his assessment of making sure that established merchants, established businesses in the Old Town area especially are, and throughout the city are reinforced. I think it is the lifeblood, the heart and soul of our economic engines, is our small businesses in the city. I want to reinforce Councilmember Graham's statements as well as Councilmember Duboscus' statements. I think they were all excellent. I just have a very, it's one of those times when I could use a bully pulpit for good, so I'm just going to bring my little, while we're in a work study session, I'm going to bring my little 2 cents in. One of the most underserved aspects of this city is especially in a post-COVID era, is the growth of Scottsdale as a tourism destination for Jews outside of New York who like to travel on the shoulder season of Passover. They don't all just go to Florida for the Passover holiday. They come to Scottsdale. There is a growing population. The Hilton, I know, puts on at least 600 guests, and there's multiple locations throughout the city, throughout the valley, and these are big families coming out, and they're eating and drinking in Scottsdale and looking to move here. So I just wanted to put that out there and see that don't let Florida take them all, because Arizona's a wonderful place to live.
Councilwoman Whitehead.
Thanks. You know, I agree with some of the statements, such as we don't want to rewrite this, we want to modify this plan. Having been on council when it was written, I was also quite surprised that we brought in a company that wasn't even here. I think what we need to do, not only listen to the stakeholders, but we really have to follow, and Experience Scottsdale is a great source, we have to follow trends. It's what do visitors want? We have really unique everything. You know, the Sonoran Desert is unique, but then we have to have the types of activities that they want to do. And some of the, having been on Experience Scottsdale board for 2 years and been involved, the environment, hugely important to national and international tourists. That's was considered in this year's, I think, annual meeting. That was a top consideration. Celebrating different cultures was also a top item. The local hoteliers, and this makes sense and it's already in the plan, want to have a wellness week also, you know, and that's already in this plan. And I do want to point out some of the many successes we had. It used to be until I think we did it in 2020 or 2021, we didn't have access to our own stadium. Only the San Francisco Giants did. So we changed that contract. We rebuilt the Civic Center Plaza. We did a lot of things so that our tourists have more places to go. We have more venues where taxpayers get some revenue out of it. And, you know, so it's, we've expanded, just drastically changed contracts at Westworld to accommodate more events and to focus on what our residents want. So we have to listen to the tourists, not just the stakeholders. And I think there's some overlap in this discussion between marketing and a plan. This is a plan, and a lot of what I'm hearing is how do we market this stuff. That I consider separate. And, you know, we need to obviously constantly invest in marketing, but also invest in our city and our environment so that it's amenable to those visitors. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilwoman Littlefield.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, this is not an area of my expertise. I was one of the very few people who failed art in 8th grade because I could not draw. However, music was a different story. I think what we're doing has been highly successful, and I'll give you an example of why I think so. My husband and I took a long-desired trip several years ago to Europe. We went to Italy, and we got on the boats, and we were going down through the canals, and we were having a great time, and I sat next to an older man from Spain. And since I spoke a little Spanish, and he spoke a lot of Spanish, we were kind of mumbling along, and he asked me where I was from. And I said, I'm from Scottsdale. No, I said, I'm from Arizona in the United States. And he goes, Arizona? And I go, Scottsdale. And he goes, Scottsdale. He knew the name, but he didn't know the state. And so I'm thinking that kind of recognition is really what we want, that people will know Scottsdale's special, Scottsdale's unique. That's the place we want to be. And I'm finding that the programs, the past programs and activities that we have done have been very highly successful, especially if we want to go to activities that are year-round, because a lot of people don't have a lot of choice as far as when they can take a vacation. It's kind of determined by the company they work for, the number of days or weeks that they have available for a vacation, how far can they go. And so I think it would be helpful to have a number of different timelines for trips to do things like a 3-day, 4-day, 6-day, 2-week, that kind of thing, so that they have options. And I think, ask the stakeholders, what do they think is missing of what they enjoy here in Scottsdale? Ask our own people. We're growing areas for visitors all the time. What do they look for? What do you hear from them? And something I think you will find all of them say is our visitors are looking for something unique that's just Scottsdale. Now, that may be a little hard to find, but I think that would be a real winner if we can do that. What are the wishes? What are the new things that are coming down the pike? Those are things that we should be looking at, not just, the parada. We've done it for years and years and years. It's highly successful. It's a wonderful parade. Everybody loves it. But what's new? What's something else that they can come and see if they've already been to see the parada? So those are the kinds of things. Also, multiple talents, not just a play, not just the stage, not just art, but music. How about different kinds of music, different kinds of things? And we do a very good job with that. I think bringing in the Indian community is excellent because it's unique, it's special, and it's real. And so if we can bring those kinds of feelings, like I've seen something that is really part of America, part of the culture, part of the country, but it's not something you can find, in New York. So those are the kinds of things that would be really special for Scottsdale to have a handle on. And I think we've got a good start on a lot of that. Maybe we could grow it and make it better.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm last, but I can't wait to talk about this, one of my favorite topics. So before I talk about it, though, I really want to hone in on what your goal is and what you're looking to get from us, because I could sit here until literally 10 o'clock tonight telling you all the great ideas that I think we can launch, right? But there's a cost associated with those. All those ideas, big costs in some cases, very de minimis in others. I did see in here that you're planning to work with consultants, but I'm not sure exactly what that means. So that's very, it's rather vague. So I'd like to just understand a little more of what you're looking for tonight, what your plans are, because the action item, it's not an action item, but you want input on updating the tourism and events strategic plan. So I don't know that it needs to be updated, maybe executed in a more up-to-date way. I don't know that I would spend a lot more time, a lot of time on rewriting it, as Councilman Graham pointed out. But what are you looking for? And then I know this is going to have a budgetary impact when you come back, for the upcoming budget cycle. I mean, sky could be the limit. Like, what's our budget to do this, right? Can you just speak to those two things?
Of course. Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. Intentionally vague in the staff report because our intention tonight was to come forward and get a sense of where the council is at with their desires for how we should move forward with the plan. And so, of course, we have the full range of options. We could take the existing plan and put it in the recycling bin and spend $100,000 with consulting firms and take 6-9 months to engage every single stakeholder that we can find from, between Tempe and Cave Creek. Or we could take the existing plan and have a skinnier process where staff internally goes through and does a quick rewrite of that and enhances some of the areas that we've talked through. I think personally, coming into this position, one of the things that I was really excited about was the opportunity to do strategic planning in both of these areas, economic development and tourism and events. The direction from the city manager, creating this position with the intention of integrating these two related functions was really interesting to me personally and professionally. And so I see that as probably the biggest opportunity here, right? So what we have laid out in the council materials, what was alluded to is a budgetary decision in the proposed fiscal 26-27 budget. There is, I believe, $100,000 that is earmarked for strategic planning efforts in both of these areas, right? And so it's not that we would use every single cent of that, because again, we have the range of opportunities, but that with mayor and council approval of that budget request would give us the latitude, right, to fully explore our options and find a path that is the best fit for strategic planning in both economic development and tourism and events, right? Based on what I'm hearing, sort of a sense of the council here this evening, there's a lot in the plan that perhaps is good. There was a lot of work that has been done recently, right, in and around Old Town and tourism related that helps to inform that effort going forward. And so perhaps that full option of bringing in and having a consultant different process that is longer and more expensive is probably not the option that we're moving towards right now, right? And so something perhaps in the middle of the skinny version. I think there is a lot of value in bringing in an outside consulting group in some form or fashion. So some of the things that I heard at the dais was talking about comparisons with peer cities, talking about what are we missing and what are other communities doing that we might want to consider, just bringing fresh ideas to the table. And there is a lot of value in bringing some outside perspective to do some of that. The other piece where I think there's a lot of value in using outside consultant, or I would just say facilitator in this regard, is we have a lot of stakeholders, a lot of people are interested in this topic. And so for staff to take that on with just our staff resources in addition to all of our day-to-day workload, I think is a heavy lift, honestly. And so I think it would be really valuable to ensure that we are truly engaging with all of the stakeholders that we can to bring forward all of the best ideas and incorporate them into the revised version of the plan would be well worth our while in time and effort.
That's helpful. So it's the $100,000 internal budget that you're looking to tap into to do this process. And this, you're looking for our direction as to where you should spend most of your focus. Okay.
That's right.
Well, hopefully you get a summary or collective idea of what that is. But I would say our number one goal, and it's been each one of the council members, vice mayor has said this, is really, I think, the number one goal for us right now. We're positioned so nicely, in such an amazing way, not only in the country, the state, the country, but globally. So this is our time, and it's been a great year, and it's our time to really take it to the next level. I would articulate the number one goal as elevating experience, okay? And I think that you do that through so many different ways. There's so many ways to do that. Getting all the oars rowing in the same direction with constituencies. I think top tier, for example, the Westworld event producers, they can be super helpful with this. You spoke about this, getting constituents involved, constituencies. The Old Town, downtown merchants that are here, bringing them together to articulate. Because really, I don't think, I happen to agree with most everyone here, I don't think we need outside consultants. It's just so obvious. How do we elevate experience here? For me, it's how to move people from place to place, how to tap in and showcase, spotlight what we have already. Bob Petchman said that earlier. For example, when the open, start with this, let's change it to that Waste Management Scottsdale Open, like it rightfully should be titled. Let's get to work on that. Showcasing Scottsdale and everything we have to offer. But if we can't change the name right away, why don't we have a launch event in Old Town at the waterfront where the spotlight is on Scottsdale? I can tell you, I love the Open. They don't talk about Scottsdale at all out there. You never hear Scottsdale. I mean, the broadcasters say we're in Scottsdale, and that's true, but the focus really could be Scottsdale, more centric, right? Same with Bear Jackson. They do so much for our community, and I don't think they could improve on much, but having a, pre-launch event down at Old Town. And, while Bob Pedgman said it's centered on events, I think we can all agree that events bring energy to Old Town and to the merchants. I mean, you cannot argue with that. So getting people to Old Town, which is the next major point, how do you get people there? Already we struggle with how do you get around to Old Town, people that live here, people that come here. How do you navigate Old Town? Having some elevated experience to traverse not only Old Town and downtown, but the entire city. This has been a big issue for a long time. If we could solve that problem, I think, or get an idea, that launch to get people from anywhere, North Scottsdale to Old Town, a shuttle, I don't know what it looks like, technology-wise, but collaborating to get, I just think there's such an opportunity to do that. Showcasing the upcoming Scottsdale Arabian show, right? Organize horse farm tours. The city of Scottsdale could do that. People want to come to Scottsdale to see, they really want to see horses. We really don't, there's nowhere to see them unless you're going to the show or you're going to the Prada. So farm tours would be a super cool idea. Youth sports, someone touched on this earlier. Really improving our parks. I know we do an amazing job, but expanding opportunities. For example, lacrosse. I know there's someone in the audience that's very passionate about expanding lacrosse. There's just no room for lacrosse right now, but I think we have the room if we put our minds to it. And if we can, work collectively, I don't think anyone on the dais would disagree that attracting youth sports and visitors associated with youth sports to the city of Scottsdale would be a win-win. Families spend more money than they can afford to spend on their kids' sports, right? Anyone guilty of that here? Yes. Let's see. Talked about shuttles, the preserve, getting people to the preserve. I think that's an entirely underutilized asset for us. People know about it, generally speaking. Who's going to take an Uber to the preserve? I don't know. If there's a way to get a shuttle there, that would be phenomenal from Old Town. Get people around town. And I'm not sure how you solve that problem, but since you're the expert, you're gonna solve that for us. But I do think transportation in our city, and no, I'm not a light rail person, that's been well documented. I'm not a big bus person. I don't think we need more buses. If there would be shuttles come to mind, trolleys have been discussed in Old Town. I think this is a real opportunity for us to take us to the next level. From a marketing perspective, another question about that, are you working with Experience Scottsdale on this? Because there's a lot of overlap and education, synergy. Are you planning to work with Experience Scottsdale?
Short answer, yes. They're a key stakeholder for the city.
I think that they're probably going to have a lot of good input. But, instead of, Vice Mayor Clausman made this observation quite some time ago. But instead of trying to be all things to all people, I think you hone in on what we do really, really well, what we've already perfected. I was going to bring up the spring training, using the Scottsdale Stadium, enhancing the uses there, making it easier for people to not only do the iconic events, but making it easier for people to get to them, making them better known and celebrated, and just an overall better experience, and that includes the transportation component I talked about. So I think that's it. I don't know. Oh, and the Performing Arts Center that I think we could really use in the future. I don't know how, this isn't going to get us there, but ideas would be great. Not to take away from Scottsdale Arts, because I love it, but just, add 1,500 seats to that. So then we're in the ballgame of big event, Yeah. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, if there's nothing further, I really appreciate the feedback and the opportunity to bring this item forward to council. And we will, I believe what I would like to do is summarize what I heard tonight, and then we'll follow up with mayor and council in memo form and chart our path forward, I think, with direction and approval, mayor and council's approval of this item in the budget.
Okay, thank you. I just want to add one thing. I think this goes without saying, because we've gone over this before, improving the walkability in Old Town. The sidewalks, the look, the feel, the rocks that someone planted all over Old Town. There's a lot of complaints about those. Just making Old Town more beautiful than it already is. Yeah, can we all agree on that? Oh, we have consensus on one issue. I love this celebration, and with that, we'll adjourn. No, kidding. Thank you, Kevin.
Very good, thank you.
I think we're done, though, actually, as it turns out. So council member reports. All right. Can we put our names on the board, please? Anybody? Councilwoman Whitehead.
I just want to call out our solid waste staff for getting a grant for the city of Scottsdale, and our fire department for becoming a food waste-free having food waste-free firehouses. So that's really cool. And I had something I wanted to put up. Yeah, there we go. So, I was so intrigued last year how every single meeting there were people I didn't know talk about how important it is for sustainability. But, it is. And there was about 3 or 4 things that were rotating on this electronic board at the Waste Management Open. Zero waste event was one of them, and sustainability was another one. So yay to both our fire department solid waste and the Waste Management Scottsdale Open. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman McCallum.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to give a shout out this Friday in Scottsdale at Frazier's, just up the street. We'll be opening the Scottsdale Baseball Experience. This has been in the making for a very long time. 2 hometown gentlemen, Mike Phillips and Charlie Vassalero. One went to Saguaro and one went to Coronado. Charlie went to Coronado, Mike went to Saguaro. And they are bringing the Scottsdale Baseball Experience to life in Frazier's, and it will be a very big deal. For those of you who've been around, those of you out listening from the internet on, Don and Charlie's was kind of that sort of feel. This will expand way beyond that. I'm so proud of these 2 gentlemen, and it will be an anchor mini sports museum / Hall of Fame ode to Scottsdale and the history of baseball in Scottsdale, and I'm looking forward to it. I will be at the grand opening, and I invite all of you. It's this Friday at Frazier's between 4 and 6.
Excellent, thank you. Councilwoman DeBascus.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just wanted to give a shout out to Scottsdale Police and Scottsdale Fire. The Deputy Chief Adam Hoster gave me a tour of the command center for police and fire at the Waste Management Open, and it's really impressive work that they do all day, every day. I'm talking with police officers outside tonight. They are exhausted, but they did a great job. We had a really good event. So thank you very much to Scottsdale Police and Scottsdale Fire. And I wanted to remind folks that Councilwoman Littlefield and I will be available for office hours here in the Kiva. Our next event will be on March 2nd from 4 to 6, so please feel free to stop by. We're happy to speak with anyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Klasman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and also a very special congratulations to Chris Gotterup, who crushed it in overtime, and to take the championship, take the Waste Management. Big shout out to the PGA, big shout out to Thunderbirds, big shout out to Scottsdale Police. and all the other wonderful Scottsdale teams that put together an incredible waste management. Wow, what an amazing city we have. Well done. Let's do it all again next year.
Thank you. Move to adjourn. All right. Thank you, everybody, for sticking around.